So first we have to cheers. But what should we toast to?
Oh man. No accidents.
No accident.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to
And to
accidents.
Vessel and everything that's in your near future here.
Oh yeah.
Because you have a lot going on. I've been told that this is where it all began. We're at Workshop Brewery. So why is this place so special?
This place is very special to us. This is sort of where we got our start, per se. We played a lot of 3 to 4 hour gigs here, both as a duo and as a trio. And so, scattered throughout our history and our show history is always Workshop Brewing Company.
Yeah, Sav and I, so we're celebrating our 10-year bandiversary this fall.
What are we gonna do?
I don't know, I have to get you something special.
Yeah,
we'll figure it out on
figure it
tour.
out.
But we met here in Traverse City at the public high school at West Senior High through the music programs, and a lot of the local businesses, gave opportunities for us to gig. So we would play like Workshop Brew. We did like a Wednesday residency. We'd come here like every week and test out the new songs, and just the crowd that came here got to know us so well, and everyone here is so supportive.
You could watch it build too over time. It was like 2 to 3 people, and then it just kept growing and growing, and that was really exciting.
I love that, and I love that this is where we're having the drink. You can feel it in the air. I love thinking about those early days. And before we get into the Traverse City music scene and your connection to the area, you have a tour coming up this fall, right around the corner, and it's kicking off at the Traverse City Opera House. What excites you most about this tour? I have to imagine it's extra special coming out of the pandemic and to be able to connect with your fans again and just to get back out on the road. So, what does it feel like going into this next chapter?
It feels really special. In a way, it almost feels like we've been waiting 10 years to play these shows that are coming out, because Vessel is an album we've been writing and recording and postponing for a long time. And so it's finally coming out this fall. We've been, saving a couple songs to play for the first time at these shows too. And we've also been working up the songs with a bass and guitar player who's going to do some auxiliary parts to reflect the recording. So the show is going to be a bigger sound. There's going to be stage props and lights, and it's going to be extra special.
Well, especially after a full year in isolation too. We've recorded a lot of the record in quarantine, so it feels like it's a little bit like coming home in a way. I think that's what I'm excited about. It's just the community coming back full force.
Yeah, me too.
And did I read that did you build a studio? And so this whole, all this new music was this labor of love that happened in the pandemic. So what was that process like?
Yeah, it was really funny. When we came back all together, when we decided to start recording, we basically just tacked blankets to the ceiling.
Thumbtacks.
And with thumbtacks, and we took all of the CD boxes that we had ordered but couldn't then sell on the tour we were about to do. So we stacked all of those up, and we threw blankets over them and made partitions and stuff, and just pretty much DIY'd it and just made it happen as quickly as we could. So we got into it.
And where was the studio?
Oh, it's in my attic.
Yeah.
It's called Atticus Blues Studios. So if you see that in the liner notes, that we're talking about
Is
that.
that here in Traverse City?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, excellent.
And we have a studio cat. I don't recommend that. They like to chew cables, which we're, the lifeblood of our recording process is cables. So, only get a studio cat that doesn't chew things.
Gave excellent moral support though
He
through
did.
the,
Our
through
boy
the
Nashville.
long days and the long nights.
Right.
We actually got Nashville at the City Opera House, so full circle.
Oh.
Yeah.
So for those who aren't familiar with your work, how do you describe your style, sound, and also the passion and purpose behind the music?
Wow. Broad question.
Yeah.
How do we describe the sound? I would say, Kate and I both play multiple instruments. I play electric violin and guitar and bass and mandolin. Katie plays electric guitar and electric cello, bass, and many other instruments as well. Accordion is one of them that we haven't brought up back in a while. And then Michael plays full drum kit. So, spanning across this is sort of orchestral roots, but we also have brought a lot of indie rock to the sound, and there's some folk and Americana as well. So it's just kind of spanning a lot of different things between our styles of writing and the instrumentation.
Cool.
Yeah.
I want to read a quote from NPR. They said among the most emotionally compelling songwriters of our time. So what is the songwriting process? If we could peek behind the curtain into that studio. Does it take place in the studio, or is it, what's the process?
For a long time, the songwriting kind of happened in those tiny days when we got off the road. We were talking a little bit about that grind of being on tour, and we used to play like 250 shows every year for about a 6-year period, right up to 2020. And we would get off the road, and in those quiet moments, Sav and I we'd like not see each other for like 24 hours and go in our separate corners and write. And it was just a really personal kind of stream of consciousness process at times. Sav does a lot of journaling, and that has been really important for like our mental health. So that was typically the process, and then we would bring songs as a 3-piece, and we would all arrange together and work up the live arrangement, play it for years, and then finally record it. And recently all that has changed quite a bit, and a big part was when we went into isolation in 2020. Sav was doing a lot of live streaming and put together a whole tutorial system on like OBS and how to do it if you're a musician who needs help learning the technology. And so that introduced us to so many musicians, and we ended up like Sav would get on a call and with Kim Ritchie, for instance, and say, "Hey Kim, would you ever want to write a song with us?" And that kind of dove us headfirst into co-writing,
which really expanded the way that we write. I mean, Kate and I, we've written like our occasional songs together, but like that wasn't the substance of what we did 90% of the time. So on this record, there are times where like we were in the studio and we're like, scratch all these lyrics, we're starting over from scratch, and we would kind of write it together. Or other songs, we'd be like, maybe these 3 lines could change. And I think the difference is that we had time to do that. Typically we had like, we go in the studio for 3 days, and then we have 3 songs to do, and then we leave and go back on tour. And this is like, okay, we have like for however long the foreseeable future is until this, dies down a little bit, and we have all this time to record, so let's make it right.
Do you prefer that, being able to go back, or which way do you work better? A deadline, or I don't know.
Somewhere in the middle, I feel like would be good, because we're perfectionists, and we would work until
you can keep trying to make it better and better and better.
Yeah, we would work forever. At some point we had cut ourselves off for this record, but
I love that you touched on mental health. So what is the key of being on tour? How do you make sure to, stay healthy, mind, emotionally, and physically, I guess? Because that does sound like a grind, 250 shows a year.
It's true.
Well, we were 24 when we went into it, and we're 26 now, and I feel like the difference is, like, if I don't do yoga before I go to bed, like, my back and shoulders are aching the next day, So, like, we make time for ourselves. We build routine into the touring schedule, because, you have to find consistency when you are in a different city every night. So typically we'll journal, or we'll make sure that we get a good breakfast in the morning. Like, okay, we're going to this coffee shop at this time. We're gonna meet up. We're gonna get coffee every morning and like just have an hour together, and then we're gonna hit the road. Or like at night before we go to bed, let's do yoga together, or let's watch a movie together. Just little things, kind of establishing some normalcy and consistency helps a lot.
We also have had to learn sort of check in with each other and be really honest. Like sometimes in the van we'll just say, all right, everyone, check in today. Where are you at on a scale of 1 to 10? And then everyone just shares, and that's a good way of sort of opening up the conversation and like maybe giving each other grace if we know where everyone's at.
Yeah,
I love that.
So that has helped a lot. And but we totally had to learn how to be like a different dynamic when we got off the road, because suddenly we were like all working in the studio all day, and so we would like play video games together at night, play Dungeons and Dragons, and find other ways to sort of connect beyond just the music.
Yeah. Oh, that's such good stuff. So I want to talk Traverse City, obviously. You two became musical soulmates in high school and your orchestra program, and then transferred to Interlaken, and then shortly after met Michael. So are you all living in Traverse City now?
No.
What's the
so
setup?
Kate and I live part-time in Nashville, part-time in Traverse. Michael lives in Grand Rapids. There's a really thriving and budding music scene there, and that's kind of where we split our time right now.
Nice. Nice places to be.
Yeah.
How would you describe the Traverse City, or what's it like to make music here? And some of the perks and then also challenges.
Yeah, I would say the nice thing about starting a career here, when we did at a young age, is that there was such an infrastructure to help support musicians that was already established here. And a lot of the breweries, such as the one we're sitting in right now, we're peppering, accepted us even though we were underage. They would still allow us to come in and play music and share our songs. And we were able to make money, like as young kids kind of trying to figure out if we could make this a sustainable career. And that just meant so much. Like just having people help build dreams into fruition here is something that I've noticed, not just for us, but for a lot of other musicians in the community. And there's also musicians supporting musicians in this community. So that's just really special to Travers. We see some communities, nationally as we tour that have kind of a similar vibe, but Travers is really special to us. Michigan as a whole is really special to us for what it did for us and other musicians.
Yeah, the biggest con is just the blizzards and taking the van with the trailer all the way up, once you get through Cadillac and then up to Traverse City, and you're like, finally, we made it. Like, we survived. But it's worth it because the nature, is so hard not to be inspired here. Like, we just look out and, there's
half
the
our
water
songs have
and
trees and stars, and we were joking
Right.
about that. But that's what you see up here.
Well, I was going to ask is how does Michigan influence your work, songwriting, and sound, and even, whether you're in Grand Rapids or up here, how does it influence?
Michigan is just so beautiful, and I think one of the best things about being up here, at least when we were recording in quarantine, one of the best things was if we needed to, we could just go outside and walk around in nature and just be in it, and go to the lake and really sit in where you're at. And Michigan is just so gorgeous of an area and of a place that it's inspiring in its own right, I think.
We actually have a song called Michigan, and again, that's sort of a love letter to where we grew up. It's really special in that way to us, where it just you carry a piece of home with you wherever you go, and this is a way of doing that. We get requests for that song in Ohio, even though there's apparently this big sports rivalry.
You said
they
we wouldn't
still,
tell.
yeah, I know, I lied. Sorry, Ohio. But also California and Illinois and all these places are just surprisingly just on board and gung ho for Michigan, and it's good
I love
to see.
to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm always, pumping up Michigan everywhere I go, and then if anyone has a connection, especially in interviews, that I really latch on to that. I think community is so important, and I can see you guys with your fans and this community you've created. How would you, beyond just the music community, how would you describe the creative community up here?
Well, I think a good example is we were just talking about a couple music videos we're making. We made a video for our song City View. It came out as a single, and almost the entire thing happened in 24 hours, and that was 100% due to our community here and the local businesses in Traverse, the local public transit beta buses let us use a bus, and people came out to be extras, and it was immediate outpour of support. And we've seen that time and time again with, in our situation when we've had to do Kickstarters or GoFundMe for our when our trailer got stolen in 2019, or when the van was totaled in an accident. And we see that all the time. And even 2019, we started Patreon, and we've just bonded so tightly with those people, getting on Zoom with them and having a book club and being able to bond over things, not just music, but all sorts of creative things, and also just life things. We just talk.
There's also a strong sense of collaboration up here. Even on some of our earliest records, we'll have Billy Strings or Don Julian come in and lay some tracks, or I still hit up Dominic Davis to this day every time I need a good bass line. I'm like, dude, help me out. Yeah. There's that sense of musicians helping musicians, and also being able to do music videos up here. There's a strong film scene. There's a strong art scene. There's just there's lots of creative mediums that are cross collaborating and making new art, and that's really, really cool to see.
I love to hear that. You mentioned it's coming up on 10 years. How have you changed personally over the last decade?
Oh man.
A deep one
lot.
for 11 in the morning.
I mean,
Yeah.
I hope that something changed between 16 and 26 other than puberty, you know, like I think, you know, we have become much stronger people, not just because of this career, but because of the communities and the people that we've met along the way. Every trial and tribulation has affected us in some way, made us stronger or made us, you know,
Yeah.
understand, you know, how to get through life a little easier.
Yeah, like we all started. What's cool about the 10-year process is each of us have really influenced each other over the last 10 years. So, for instance, when I came into this band, and I still am, but I was extremely indecisive. And so I had a really hard time, you know, making a call or like making a decision and being confident in that. And I think that being around these guys like really helped. Now, after spending time producing our own music and being on the road, like I can tell like, okay, I'm gonna put my foot down, like this is the right decision, or you know, I know more things about myself, and I think like Sav has slowed down.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I've learned how to take my time.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Well,
yeah.
when you look back, you were very lucky that at a young age you could see that you could pursue music professionally. When you look back, are you proud of the confidence that you had to go for it? And did you have a big support system, friends and family cheering you on?
Yeah, I think confidence is a funny word because I feel like we were anything but back then. You know, without the support system of friends and family, I feel like we would have been a lot less confident to pursue this as a viable dream and career. And we've changed a lot since then. Now we feel like, you know, we can go on the road for 40 days and we'll be okay and everything will be fine. You know, any accidents that might happen, we're ready for it. But, you know, we definitely still rely on that support system of people who are just incredible music lovers and are ready to help us back up whenever we get hit.
I feel like at times too, it can feel like you're in this bubble of being on the road, and it almost feels like, you know, self-absorbed. Like, why are we making this music? But I think it really has an impact because we, you know, when we were in high school, there was a duo who came by and did a workshop at our school called the Moxie Strings, and like all they did was stand up there and play their hearts out and like tell us about music. And watching that inspired me to think, hey, like maybe I could play my cello that way, or like maybe I could, you know, learn how to improvise. And so we've been trying to do that lately, and when we're on tour, we stop in at schools, and a lot of these students just need, you know, to watch and see that it's possible and hear like music can be a career, and there's 100 different careers in the music business, you know, not just being a performer.
I love that you guys give back, and that was actually, I wanted to touch on that, as how you do work with kids and show them that, you know, you can follow your dreams in music. So why is that so important to you, you know, to, I mean, you kind of just answered it, but, you know, in your business, you make time for it. So,
Yeah,
Oh,
and it helps us, you know, stay grounded a little bit. I always am like amazed at how much teachers, like I have like a respect for them, I guess, after we do workshops, because like we're always still nervous, like are we cool enough for this? Are they gonna like us?
If you can like hold a kindergartner's attention for 45 minutes, that is the most like you could play on any stage.
right?
Yeah, but you know, it is important to us because we wouldn't be a band without, you know, our teacher being, you know, being inspired to bring in a group of musicians to inspire us. And she also helped organize the Alternative Styles Club, which is how we met. And she also, you know, got the school to invest in electric instruments. And as we tour the country and we play workshops, you know, more and more often we realize how lucky we were to have had all those things in place, and how that's not the situation across the board or across the country. You know, a lot of music programs get cut, and it's just sad because like if we hadn't had those music programs, there's absolutely no way I feel like I would have been able to like be really inspired enough to take the leap into playing music. So it is super important, and we try to just advocate for that as much as we can, because there's a lot of musicians out there who could totally make a viable career and just don't know because the tools aren't there.
So I think sometimes when you follow your passion, like the highs are highs and the lows are lows. What are some of those high pinch me moments that have happened over the last decade?
A lot.
Oh yeah.
Co-writing with Kim Ritchie was one
Big one.
because we set up this co-write with Kim, and a few months prior, we were like sitting at the Ryman Auditorium in Nashville watching her on stage with Brandi Carlile, and then I was like, I didn't sleep at all that whole night.
Then we
It
were
was
talking about sourdough bread the
incredible.
next day. It was crazy, you know. And like also, you know, performing with Dar Williams when we were 18, and that was like the music that my mom had been listening to when she was pregnant with me, and like. Yeah, and like touring with Keller Williams, playing music with him. Oh my God, playing with Joan Baez on stage. And then she like turned around and poked Katie in the belly and held our hands and walked us off stage.
I
Those
always
kinds of
remember
things.
when we were in New York, we got introduced once by Adam Duritz of the Counting
Oh.
Crows at a festival he was putting on, and that was like a record my parents played for me when I was so young. And like, you know, it was just one of those moments where you're like, oh my gosh, this is like a thing that's happening.
Doing a music video with Andrew DAUSE.
Yes.
Oh, and yeah, the time
Yeah,
I
that
met
was
Jason
cool.
Mraz, but I didn't know who he was, and I thought he was a janitor. And I was like, oh, thanks for everything you do, man. And like went to grab him a CD and came back, and it's like, where's that guy? And Kate's like, you mean Jason Mraz? So it's an after pitch me moment, but you know.
Oh my gosh.
Lots
so
of glorious
what
things.
keeps you going? I mean, there's probably moments like that, but yeah, what keeps you going when times do get tough?
I think, you know, a combination of things. You know, relying on each other helps, checking in with each other, making sure everybody knows each other's emotional state. But also, I think the reason why artists do anything at all is to try and connect. You know, a lot of us are really introverted. We may not seem like it. That's one of the things that changes in 10 years. But you know, we're really introverted, and music and other art forms are a good way to say things without really having to stand in public and say them like into a podium in a very serious manner. Like, hey, you get to do it while holding a guitar in your hands, or you get to do it in song. And people connect, and they'll tell their stories and how they interpret it and how they relate to it. And it just helps to know that you're not alone in that. So, you know.
I think a big piece too, because you know, we've always been such a live show band, and we're so used to that energy and just being out there and doing cool stage things and putting together an experience, and all that was like stripped away at the beginning of 2020 when we went into lockdown. So like we started to ask ourselves like, well, what can we do? And so we started these like live streams where every single day at noon we would live stream for like 15 minutes, and we called them daily breathers, and we would just like light a candle and send out good energy and like play one song and recommend a book. And we would just hang out in the comments section and talk to people for a long time. And I
People
think that
still come up to us at shows
really
and talk
important.
about how we should bring those back because it helped them through really rough times, and that's what, you know,
That's-
helped us too.
it did.
What about you?
Yeah, I would second everything that they said, especially with some of the feedback that we've gotten. Now that we've begun playing shows again, there have been a lot of people that have come up to us and you know, let us know that how much they appreciated the things that we were doing. And, you know, a lot of those stories are really touching and lovely. And I think that, you know, that's definitely just one of the things that keeps you going, because, you know, it means so much to people. Like, I know during the pandemic, you know, I think we all kind of latched on to a lot of our favorite music as well.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I could only hope to return the feeling to somebody else.
Yeah.
But I bet that makes it all worth it when someone comes up to you and shares how you help them. So I want to thank you again for doing this, and I do have a final question, but I just think you're so talented and inspiring, you know, all the instruments you play, but then also just all the young women who look up to you as well. It's super, super cool. I kind of want to bring it full circle to where, since we're in Traverse City, if you, I guess, what makes Michigan so special to each of you?
Mimmer's ice cream. No, seriously though.
Great
Yeah.
answer.
Last time we shouted out Moomer's Ice Cream, they reached out to us and asked if we wanted to make an accidentals flavor of ice cream, which was, I mean, my
collaboration with
childhood.
Moomer's?
Can we treat this like a metaphor for how we feel about Michigan? Because, like, honestly, like, the opportunities present themselves and people collaborate, and it just makes something hilarious and great, and that's how I feel about Michigan. It's really special. It's a community thing. I know we've been talking about it, like, the whole interview,
Yeah.
but it's just so important and so special to us, and there's just really nothing like it.
It's true, and kind of one thing I noticed during 2020 when we were home for a whole year. That hasn't happened since we were like 15 or 16 years old.
Yeah.
And finally got to like watch the seasons change from our window and see like this, like the city just shift and take a walk by the open space. And especially here, it was really cool to actually be able to appreciate it instead of bouncing around all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michigan is just so special in that way. You know, I have a lot of friends that have moved out of state to other places, and Michigan has always felt like home. And, you know, just like you said, being able to see the seasons change, like that first whiff of like cold air in September when you're like, oh, it's almost sweater weather again.
It's good to represent the state outside of it, though, too. Like, I've seen a lot of musicians are splitting their time, like Billy Strings and Lindsay Lou are splitting their time in Nashville, and I think that's amazing because you're basically putting your state on display. You're saying, look what's special about this place. Let me show you. I just think that's important, too.
I think it speaks to the community in Michigan, too, just how much Michigan support happens for people that are outside of the state and whatnot. You always see just so many people like backing everybody that has gone on, and it's really awesome to see.
Love it. Well, cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers to your tour and new release this Friday.
Thank you. Oh, my gosh.
We're going to do, if you don't mind, a really super quick fire. One-word answers. I'll just go around.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, wait, we should start on that. Okay, I'm no, it's good. I'm making better decisions.
Come on, you
now.
can do it. I believe in
Take
you.
the lead. If you could have a drink with anyone, who would it be?
Hedy Lamar.
The biggest misconception about Northern Michigan.
That it's cold all the time.
Amazing answers, guys.
Favorite season.
Oh, fall. That was easy.
Favorite Northern Michigan activity.
Oh, kayaking.
Yes.
Nice.
Smart.
Sunrise or sunset?
Michael.
Sunset.
you're
but
not awake for the
sunrise.
sunrise.
No, but when I am, when I do see a sunrise, it's almost better. But I think sunsets are more achievable.
Supposed to be a lot more.
Sorry.
I want to be an early bird
This is
so
great.
bad.
I know. Same.
Okay. Traverse City's best kept secret.
Oh geez, the Sleeping Bear Dunes. I know most people. I've asked people like, you know what's Sleeping Bear Dunes? And they don't. So Sleeping Bear Dunes.
Right. You're right. People don't know about it. Favorite.
Oh gosh.
It's kind of a stupid question, but favorite produce from the farmer's market.
Oh, this is not a stupid
perfect.
question.
That's great, yeah. Well, there's just this one guy who sells beans, so like string beans. Yeah.
Done.
I don't know who his name is.
That's a wrap. Thanks, guys. This was fun.